we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to the podcast for any reason, hit us up, ask us some questions, let us know how you feel about an episode, let us know about a topic you want to hear about. Feel free to reach out to us on our Twitter or Instagram. Hit us up in the DMs at the Bigmark Pod or at the Bigmark Podcast, respectively. And leave a comment in the videos. And again, it's the best way if you ever wanted to support the podcast. You're already doing it by watching and listening and sharing with your friends and doing all that fun stuff. But make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and all that stuff if you haven't. If you already have, thank you. And thank you so much for your support. If you want to go the extra mile too, we have our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod, where we have a couple levels there that you can choose how to support us a little extra and, help keep the lights on, so to speak. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for joining us, because I haven't decided how I was going to title this episode yet, but depending on the title, it might not sound like the most interesting episode, but I think it's an important one. Staying hydrated, drinking water. Again, I don't know exactly how I'm gonna word this, at least on the facing, but thank you for clicking. Thank you for choosing this episode, and thank you for coming along, because hopefully we'll leave today with a little bit more info on and a little bit more knowledge about how important it is to stay hydrated, drink water, drink fluids, and especially in these dry ass months. I mean, luckily we're on the tail end of it, and if anything, our clairvoyant groundhog from Wichita or wherever the fuck is gonna tell us that apparently spring is coming sooner than later this year. So we'll see whatever Wyerton Willie said. We're listening. So again, thank y'all for being here. We're going to talk about drinking water today. Yay. And honestly, it was, you might be thinking, what the fuck, Mark, why are we talking about drinking water? Like I said, it's dry as fuck out there, and it's particularly dry at my work. Unfortunately, the unfortunate reality of it is that where I'm usually at working, the cooling HVAC, whatever, the venting, the heating system, the furnace itself and the thermostat is in another part of the building, which doesn't have the same kind of how do I put this? It's not the same kind of layout, so the temperature fluctuates a lot more in that zone than it does in my area. And unfortunately, with the thermostat being over there, it thinks it's a lot colder in that area, which it is, so it's pumping a lot more heat, and a lot of that heat's coming into our area, and it's starting to fuck shit up, and it's dry as fuck. Like, we've clocked it at about 10% humidity at the lowest, and it usually sits around 15% humidity. And today we had about 3 different humidifiers going. I've created swamp coolers. Basically, I got a fucking wet rag and was like hanging it over a fan. And man. And like me and my buddies who work in that area most of the time, we're going, fuck, man. Like, we got weird headaches and we're all fucking cranky and this, that, and the other. And it's like, what the fuck's going on? And we started thinking about it. It's like, and it's also, to boot, like 25 degrees Celsius in there, like 77 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's fucking hot as balls in there. So the heat and the dry, like, we're basically turning into beef jerky. Generally, comfort levels of humidity, as they call them in the business. General, like, what you should aim for in your house is about 35 to 55% humidity. 35 is actually pretty on the low end. You want to be about 40 to 50% humidity, relative humidity in your house. And it was actually funny. I also looked up the driest place on earth, which is the Atacama Desert, on the western side of South America. And it's 22% average yearly humidity, and they only get 1 millimeter of rain a year. So we're sitting pretty well underneath that 22% in my work right now, drying out. And we're in there, we're going to look like the Crypt Keeper soon. We're in there like, water. It's quite dry. To boot on top of this, and I think it's just it's going to help in general, which we're going to get to as the podcast goes on. I started to drink a lot more water, obviously knowing that it's so fucking dry in there, but just my apartment's pretty dry too. Again, it's winter time in Canada. It's fucking dry as shit, right? So, but you can add humidity to the air and help yourself out and help yourself in many ways, which we'll get to in a sec. And I've always had a weird approach, if you will, when it comes to drinking water. In the summertime, I'm really good. I'm solid. If it's hot and I'm sweating, I get thirsty and I'm really like, okay, drive the water into me. But in the winter, when it's colder, I'm not doing as much. I'm not sweating. I find like I don't get that like major thirst that I usually get in the summer. So I don't drink enough water, and because it's already dry, it leads to problems down the line, right? So, digestion issues and all types of stuff. We'll get into, some signs of dehydration here in a sec. But, there's a lot of, how do I put it this way? There's a lot of ways, obviously, you can get more water in. And like I said, I'm trying to drink more and, have a big bottle of water sitting beside you. But a lot of the bottles of water that I'm trying to get, are stainless steel and not plastic. I think I could probably find a glass bottle somewhere. I just broke a glass bottle one. Like I had one for a long time and it broke, and I was just like, you know what? Like, what's the point of carrying around one of these bottles if it's just going to break? Like, and I'm going to have to deal with it anyway. Like, I'll just stick with the fucking plastic, hopefully I'm drinking the water fast enough. It's not full of plastics or anything, but maybe if I leave the water in there for a long time, it's got plastic. Fuck. We can't avoid the microplastics, but I feel like the least amount of contact time with the plastic is better. So if you're just drinking it quick, it's probably not the biggest deal. But I like to see the water in the vessel. I feel it's some fucking weird mind fuck with me that if I can see the water, and if it's a glass or if it's a bottle, I can see how much is in there, I'm more prone to drink it. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I can actually literally see the water itself and the water's right there. And I'm like, oh shit, I should fucking drink that. So I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna bite the bullet, and I'm gonna get an app, like hopefully find a free one of a water drinking reminder app, which sounds like the most fucking first world thing ever, but fucking, I even paid like the $10 to, I hope it was a one-time purchase. I hope it's not like a yearly thing, but I got it like the full gamut. It's really good. It's called My Water. I really like the app. It's really helping me. But the biggest thing was to try to, I probably could have just set fucking reminders on my cell phone through the reminder feature too for absolutely free. But it's giving me these reminders, and I get to track how much water, I get to input how much water I'm taking. And I think that just helps me actually drink it. And like I said, it's got the reminders, but when you're putting in the drinks, you put in obviously the amount of water you drank. It's obviously My Water, so it's kind of looking more towards water, but it's really good. There's a bunch of different drinks on there. So different, whether it's soda or an electrolyte drink or coffee, or tea or alcohol, any type of alcohol. And if it's not water, it doesn't actually count usually the entire amount of that. So like, for instance, with coffee, because of the amount of caffeine in it, which can lead to a little bit more, with a little bit excess loss of, like a little bit more dehydration, it only counts like, I think 75% of the liquid volume to your daily total. So like if I drank 300 milliliters of coffee, it's only going to put like, whatever, 265 or whatever the fucking, however that works out, into my daily total. So I'll still be running counter, but even though I drank like 300 mils of liquid, it didn't actually count all those mils, because again, it's trying to account for the dehydration from the caffeine. And then it's also pretty good about, you can add in your like daily fitness, your daily activity level, and it'll help actually add some more requirements to that. And for instance, like, so obviously as you're working out more often, you're going to need more liquid to replace a lot of that sweat, but you're also going to need electrolytes too. And electrolytes are super important, which are salts essentially. Obviously, sodium and potassium are the two major electrolytes in the body, because those are the ones that are responsible for cellular function and like electrical transport across cells. So those are, if you're ever wondering what an electrolyte is, and magnesium and other salts and stuff, again, they're just minerals, I guess, or substances. In this case, again, these minerals that assist in electron transfer. So in electrical transmission through liquid, through cells, through all these different things. So anyway, not to get too physiological about it, but it's really important to get that in. So if you're adding that into your daily total, of course, it's going to count that liquid. It's not necessarily going to track your minerals and your like food intake. It doesn't really do that kind of thing. But if you are really dehydrated, chances are you're a little bit low on some of those minerals, and we got to get those back going. So the other really cool thing when you are inputting drinks and things like that is that if you are drinking alcohol, it actually negates some of your hydration of the day. So if I drank, a 335 can or 355 milliliter can of beer, it actually like negates, I think it was around 125 mils, or so it didn't even count the 355, and it actually took away some of the mils. So I actually had to drink more to replace that, which I think is excellent. It's funny actually when I went and did a tour of the Heineken factory in Amsterdam, around, of course, it was trying to promote responsible drinking, as a lot of places in Europe do. And they said, for every beer you drink, you should drink a water. Beer, water, beer, water, beer, water. Do that all night and you're going to be great. You're going to not have a hangover and everything's going to be fun. So drinking water is really important if you're drinking alcohol, whether you're using this app or not. And again, same with the caffeine. So it takes that into account, which I think is really important, because some people think, I have 8 cups of coffee a day. I'm drinking water. There's water in coffee. It's like, yeah, you're getting, so whatever, 75%. But, also you're kind of working against the clock here, right? So like I was going to mention before, some signs of dehydration, of course, are obviously, feeling thirsty, dark yellow and strong smelling urine. So if your pee is starting to change, you got to be on top of your hydration. Although you don't also necessarily want gin clear piss either, like completely clear. Peeing less often than usual, feeling dizzy or lightheaded, feeling tired, dry mouth, lips, tongue, sunken eyes. Some of the ways you can quickly check for dehydration at home is pinch the skin over the back of the hand, and kind of see if it stays up there a little bit. So I've never really noticed this test before. I feel like I've been pretty dehydrated before, but when I've done that pinch test, I feel like you gotta be fucking mad dehydrated if your skin actually kind of stays up a little bit. Holy fuck, man. But that's always the major test. But again, dry mouth, if you're not sweating, if it's summertime and it is warm, if you're listening to this in another time, which is, again, this is also super important to be hydrated in the summer. If you stop sweating, you are in deep shit. Make sure you stay hydrated and be careful when you're rehydrating, right? It's not the more the merrier. You have to intake water, make sure you get those electrolytes back too. But you can't just chug water, you get sick. You can overhydrate actually. Hyperhidrosis is a condition where you get too much. I'm pretty sure I almost got there once because I drank fuck, man. I don't know how big it was, man. It was probably pushing 4 liters. One of those big juice. Remember those big old juice containers that used to have a handle on top so you could pour it? It was like one of those, man. So it was a big ass thing of water. I chugged it just for jokes with my cousins, and I felt so sick after, man. It was my stomach was just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Hilarious. So again, watch out for those signs of dehydration. Stay on top of it. Dry skin, all that stuff too. All the other benefit. It fucks up your digestion. You're gonna hold on to fat a little bit more because, again, if you're dehydrated, your body is gonna be a bit in this. It's gonna sense that, and it's gonna be are we fucked? Is this not good? This is as bad as not eating, man. And I'm pretty sure you can go 2 weeks or something without eating, but you can't go more than 3 days without any water. So fucking drink that motherfucking water. And it actually is funny because, talk about signs of dehydration. Grade 8, I was playing, when I was in grade 8, I was playing a basketball tournament, the Ontario finals. So it was what we called the OBAs. And it was the championships for the Ontario Basketball Association, which was the, provincial-wide rep basketball association, right? So all these teams, and we were AAA, we were the highest level for that age group, doing our thing, playing against the likes of Kelly Olynyk back in the day, Corey Joseph, Tristan Thompson, like these are the guys I used to play against, like on the daily, man, or not the daily, but every weekend it seemed, at least during the season. Played like grade 6, 7, 8, and like great team. Blessed Sacrament, Hamilton. Shout out Yellow Jackets. Great bunch of guys. You know, if I saw any of those guys today, I'd love to chat with them. And you know, it was really formative years and formative memories. And the culmination of all those years was, again, in grade 8, and we kind of all knew this was going to be basically our last year together. Everyone was going away to high school, and we're going to be away from each other, which was, you know, unfortunate, but the way things go. And we were playing in the tournament. It's a 3-day tournament. It was hosted in London, Ontario. We're staying in a hotel, and like, you know, your fucking kids having a great time, right? Like, it's still a, you know, serious tournament. You're trying to win, but like, you know, we're playing in the pool, we're running around. You know, you're not eating fucking phenomenal because it's just like hotel aspects, and you're just eating at restaurants and shit. And we were playing like, so we would play like at least 1 game Friday, I think 2 games Saturday. No, 3 games Saturday and 2 games Sunday. So we played like 6 games within 3 days. And I think something like that. Maybe 5 games within 3 days. But like, you know, back then it was basketball. Like, you played a lot of games, right? But by the end, like during the tournament, like the Saturday at night, I was going to bed kind of feeling like, oh man, I kind of feel a little shitty. Like I felt like some type of sickness was coming on. And again, this is like end of a basketball season. So you're talking about April, I guess. So it's like, you know, cold flu season always. But anyway, I started feeling shitty, and you're still pushing yourself. You're trying to win these games. It's stressful. I'm pretty sure one of those games I played like to the fucking hilt. And I think I got fouled out that game, unfortunately. But anyway, we're in the round robin. We're trying to make it. And so we make it to the semifinal, and then that day I was like just not on my game. I was just like kind of fucking losing it. So that was the Sunday, and probably not necessarily drinking enough water, not necessarily being conscious of it, but who knows. So the first game on Sunday, I didn't play too much because I was not feeling great, man. I was like kind of feeling sick, and I think I ate like a bagel that day and just wasn't feeling good. So I probably wasn't drinking enough water because I wasn't, like, my stomach was starting to bother me. We lose the semifinal game, unfortunately, bullshit. And then we go to the bronze medal game in the afternoon, and we're playing, I think that was against Brampton, which would have had Corey Joseph on the team. Maybe. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, we, or maybe Mississauga we played. Fuck, I should remember. This is the last game with that team. But anyway, we're playing the game, and like, you know, I played more in that game. You know, it was the last game. Maybe my coach was just trying to give me a little bit more time. We ended up fucking losing that game. And at one point, the ball like bounced off my head, like really innocuously, like it was just like floating in the air, and it happened to hit me in the head. I don't even know if I got the ball later, but it wasn't like someone whipped it and it fucking smoked me in the dome, or wasn't like fucking brutes. But other than that, it was just a regular game, and I think unfortunately we lost, so we came 4th in the province and went home empty-handed, unfortunately, and we missed our fucking and we were supposed to have a big field trip actually that week. I think the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or something like that. I can't remember. But we were supposed to go on this big field trip to Camp Rebuff, which was this big like sleepover camp that was like Christian or Catholic, I guess, specifically. But I went in grade 7, which was nice, but this was the grade 8 trip. You know, it was the big like culminating trip, and my elementary school hated my grade, so we actually didn't get to have like a big like, so every year the grade 8 class at St. John the Baptist School in Hamilton would go to Ottawa. They'd go on this big huge trip. I don't know how long they were doing it, but like my buddy's older brother's 2 years older, he went on it. My other buddy's older brothers, who was like 4 or 5 years older, they went on it. And I know for a fact people after us went on the trip too. So, but our principal hated us and whatever. I guess we were kind of pieces of shit, whatever, who gives a shit. And they were like, nope, you don't get to go to Ottawa. You guys get to go to fucking Stratford whenever and just go watch the Tempest. And we didn't give a fuck. But we were at least going to go on this trip to Camp Rebuff, and we were going to try to make something out of that. But alas, I wasn't able to make it on that trip because talk about dehydration. At the end of that game, that unfortunate loss in the bronze medal game, I was like starving at the end of it. I was like, Mud, like, let's just go get some food. I wasn't really feeling sick anymore. I was just like, I need something to eat. Like, let's just go grab a burger somewhere. Like, I'm fucking dying. And like mom was like trying to find somewhere to eat, and this was like, kind of before Google Maps. You couldn't really just like look up shit. We were in London. We're in like a strange city. So I don't think she necessarily knew exactly where to go. And I think we were like already like leaving the city when I was like, let's go or whatever. And then all of a sudden that completely turned to like, I'm thirsty. Like I'm so fucking thirsty, man. Like I just need something to drink. Like, please, can we just stop and get something to drink? And then all of a sudden I got this like blazing pain behind my eye. Like a hot poker was like jamming into the back of my eye. Like fuck, my left eye. Brutal. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and I started like slurring my speech. Like it was bad. Like I was going fucking downhill. And my mom's a nurse. And so she pulls over and she calls her friend, who is also a nurse at Victoria Hospital in London, and says, I'm 10 minutes outside. Should I just drive him home or should I go to Victoria? Like, are they going to help him? Because my mom was obviously going to take me to St. Joe's so she could pull some strings there, I'm sure. But she takes me to Victoria Hospital because my aunt was like, based on my symptoms, they were like, kind of like, let's go. Because, I'm slurring my speech. I'm feeling these pains. Like I guess they were stroke-like symptoms. I mean, I was a fucking child. But I was a large child. I was like 6'4". I guess the possibilities of an adult-sized body having a stroke aren't completely asinine. And she rushed me to the emergency, and I'm trying to when we get to the emergency, I'm trying to open I was like sitting in the passenger seat of a car, and I'm looking at the door trying to open it, and I'm like, I'm trying to open this. I'm trying to get I can't get this. I'm like, I couldn't remember the word for door. Like I actually couldn't. I was having like Wernicke's error, Broca's area. I can't remember which one, but it's like Broca's, I think. Something was going on there, I think, because I literally couldn't remember the fucking word for door, and then I couldn't remember the word wheelchair when my mom like brought the wheelchair for me, because she was like, fuck, don't even walk. Like, we don't know what's happening. So she wheels me in and she's like, we have a head injury. Like she starts yelling because when the ball hit me in the head, she thought I was having some symptoms from that. And that actually kind of, I think, helped push me through. And I was like fucked up. I think I was like lolling in the fucking, in the wheelchair. Like I was hurting and my eye was fucking killing me. So anyway, they rush me in and they're looking at me and doing all this stuff. They hook me up to an IV right away. And they hit me up with a whole liter of saline and like 4 codeine pills. And I could have fucking jumped out of that bed and walked out. Like, it was like, that's all I needed. I just needed that fluid. And I mean, the pills probably helped me feel better, but because I was just in pain. When they hit me with the fluid, that really helped me, I think, gain. Because I think I was just like severely dehydrated. They ended up actually keeping me over 3 days for observation because they wanted to give me an MRI because they had no idea what happened. They still don't know what happened. I left the hospital saying it was a complicated migraine, and I actually went to an outpatient thing where they did this transcranial Doppler test, which is like they hook up like an ultrasound to your temple, which is where like the thinnest part of your skull, and there's a temporal artery that goes through like on the other side, which helps feed your brain, your frontal temporal lobe. And you can actually see that with the ultrasound. You can see that artery pretty clear right through the temple area of the skull. So you put that there, and then what you do is you actually get 9 cc's of saline solution and 1 cc of air, 1 milliliter, 9 millimeters of saline, and you mix those two together. He had like the neuro psychologist, I don't even know, neurosurgeon, I don't know who actually did, what kind of specialist did this. But he had like an apparatus where he could connect 2 syringes together. And the one syringe had the 1 millimeter of air, 1 cc of air, and the other one had 9 cc's of saline. And he just like whoosh, 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 mixed them, like went 1 in, 1 out, 1 in, 1 out. And he could just like mix it like that. And then all of a sudden there was like all these micro bubbles inside the saline, and those would stay suspended because of the salt, just like the viscosity of the saline. And those would stay suspended in solution long enough that you could actually inject that into your bloodstream, which is obviously highly dangerous to inject any air into your bloodstream. But when is that small amount of air, 1 milliliter of air to the entire body in the microbubbles form, your body can handle that a little bit better. It can kind of absorb. But what would actually do is that when he actually injected that into an artery, a vein, actually, I think is what he actually put it in, because it had to go back to my heart. So you put it in a vein which would have gone back to my heart. And it was the whole test was trying to determine whether I had a hole in my heart. So everyone, when you're in vitro, when you're in your mother's womb, your heart has a hole in the middle of it. That's in the sinus, in the essentially the divider of your heart. You know that you have atrium and ventricles, right? And the way your heart is, deoxygenated blood enters atria, it goes down to a ventricle, goes down over to another atria and out the other ventricle, kind of thing. So it's like, no, sorry. Anyway, oh my God, I'm sorry. I need to look this up because I feel bad now. Blood flow through the heart. So, the 7 steps of blood flow, the heart way is, it enters your heart through 2 large veins called the superior and inferior vena cava. The blood enters the right atrium, pumped to your right ventricle. Then in turn, that pumps to your lungs. And then, so that's the deoxygenated blood goes to your lungs. And then the oxygen-rich blood from the lungs then enters the left atrium and is pumped to the left ventricle. And then the left ventricle generates the high pressure needed to pump the blood to the rest of your body. So again, deoxygenated blood comes in left atria, down to the left ventricle, to the lungs, back to the right atria, down to the right ventricle, to the rest of the body. When you're not breathing in vitro, you're not using your lungs, there's no point of that blood traveling to your lungs. It actually shouldn't, because it would just all of a sudden, it would not flow back it would flow back. Anyway, your body is smart enough to nix that whole fucking part, and it just flows from atria to atria. So it bypasses the ventricles, and it just goes, there's a hole through your atrias, and it just goes right over. And then, so your mother's blood, which is what's pumping through your umbilical cord, comes up through there, through your heart, and right back to the rest of your body. And that just pumps around. It's not, your heart isn't really doing much of the work. Your mother's blood pressure is what's actually generating that. You know what I'm saying? So, when you're born and you still have this hole in your heart, right? Because you still needed it until about the moment you're born. And then your lungs kick in, and then all of a sudden that your heart starts pumping like normal. And again, there's that hole in the heart, and there's blood kind of not flowing brilliantly, but luckily you're a little tiny baby and you don't have to do too much. And as you're getting closer to birth too, that hole already starts closing. Once you're born, that hole closes up within, as far as I know, the first few months of the child's life. However, a lot of children's hole does not close, and most of the time they have a completely normal life, and then it doesn't really affect them at all. But what can happen is, if there's any, blood clot or little piece of plaque that's floating around your bloodstream, it can actually cross those atria and shoot right up into your brain, which is obviously extremely dangerous, because it can cause a ischemic stroke, right? Like, it can cause strokes, it can cause embolisms, it can cause all types of shit downstream. Even if it doesn't go straight to your brain, it can even get lodged in an artery downstream, like I said, and plug things up for you. So it's not good. So they checked for this with me with this transcranial Doppler and these microbubbles as they inject them into your bloodstream. If I had the hole in my heart, those microbubbles would go through the hole, and then they would actually be able to pick that up watching it through my temple. But no bubbles, so no hole, so they have no fucking idea what happened to me. Again, complicated migraine. That's all that fucking happened. It did kind of happen again to me in grade 11, and I think it was again due to dehydration. And I was already feeling sick, and I ended up in the hospital again. But that's my dehydration story. And there are times where I feel like a little bit of that headache coming on. I go, oh, I must be dehydrated, right? And I think it's actually led to a lot of other discomforts as far as my health is concerned. Nothing crazy, but just like digestion stuff. In university, I had some stomach pains, and maybe I wasn't drinking enough because it was after football. I'm pretty sure it was after football. I think so. Anyway, and I wasn't drinking constantly, with working out, and you just have water with you. So I think I was just taking in more water just, on the field. Obviously, we used to have these giant fucking, it looked like what you'd go and water cow. Like if you're going to go give cows water. It was like this big, huge, clear tank, and they'd roll it out. It was like on a trailer that they bring out with the fucking gator, and it had like 8 or 10 arms that would come off it, like, and it was all pumped, and you just squeeze this, and it like shoots water through like a water pump, and it just like fires in you. So it was super, super great. Spray your buddy. But you'd fucking drink that way. So obviously I was drinking a lot more water. So I think that had a lot to do with it, right? But again, it's important to stay hydrated. This is what I'm saying. Hydration drinks are important. Like I said, if you're really, really thirsty and you're trying to get yourself hydrated quicker, the hydration drinks can help. Because just water alone, you're not necessarily getting some of those minerals that you might have lost through excess sweating. So this is the thing. If you're dehydrated from excess sweating, a hydration drink is your friend. If you're just dehydrated because you haven't drank any water, drink the fucking water, man. It's free. It's going to be just as good, but just don't chug it. Like I said, And if you're wondering how much water to drink, the general guideline, which has been bumped up over the years, because the last time I heard it was 8 cups. And when I looked up for this podcast, it's like 15.5 cups, which is 3.7 liters for men and 2.7 liters for women. And again, with activity, make sure you bump that up. Make sure you take a little bit more water. And 4 liters, like another 300 milliliters, that ain't shit. So like I said, get those numbers up if you are working out and sweating a lot. And make sure you get your salts in you too. Other benefits of hydration, obviously, it helps actually regulate your body temperature. Lubricates your joints, prevents infection. It helps deliver nutrients to cells, keeps organs functioning better. It helps your skin stay hydrated. It aids in fat loss because it actually helps your body digest the nutrients and digest the food that you're eating a lot better. It's kind of meant to work with something that's kind of like a little bit more mashed up, not just hard, solid, dry shit. We want wet. It needs to be an aqueous, somewhat solution for all this chemistry to happen in your gut, right? Like, again, it's just like anything, thermodynamics and laws of physics. If something's more dissolved, you're going to have access. You're going to be able to the processes, just chemical processes, are going to be able to happen a lot better. And that actually reminds me too of my neuropsych professor. I guess he was like motor function and I can't remember what his course was called now. Matthew Heath. Me and my buddy used to call him Duncan Heath, like Duncan Keith from the NHL. But Matthew Heath used to say, a wet brain is a working brain. So stay hydrated, take that to heart, drink your water, get a nap if you need it. But make sure you drink water. Bevilacqua. Matthew Bevilacqua. If you don't know what I mean, go watch The Sopranos. And drink water when you do it. Anyway, thank y'all for listening. We'll see you soon. Make sure you hit us up on all the Instagrams and the Twitters. We love y'all. Stay hydrated. Peace.